Hi, and welcome to If Left Unchecked. I'm your host, Jason Gillette. This topic around mental health and leadership is something that I personally think is really interesting. Leadership is, what I've learned, is how you care for others. It's what you do to impact other people. That's what leadership is defined as. Another thing that I found interesting is that, and this is true for every aspect of leadership, we lead in every step of our organization, whether you're the admin, the CEO, in every aspect, we get a chance to lead in those roles. But what does it mean? And how do we do it effectively? As a leader, I find planning is something that I'm really good at. I love to strategize. I like to write things out and have a plan, but that's not all leadership is. It's actually far more than that. There's some complexities to leadership that require us to think outside the box. And that skill is a skill. And so I brought a guest in that I believe has an amazing skill and has demonstrated that skill time and time again throughout his career and in the community. But for more on the Honorable Cody Williams, check our bio link in the description below. There's a lot, and it's worth reading. But what we want to do is jump into a conversation that I think is important when we think about leadership and mental health in general. We as men lead in so many different ways, right? Whether we're in our family roles, dynamics at work, within ourselves, kids, companies, roles and responsibilities. We're leading in so many facets, and what we lead and how we lead is everything. And mental health is at the key point, is a key center of what leadership is. Because if you can't manage what you have, then you can't lead. And I personally believe that you cannot lead someone or something further than you've led yourself. And so with that, Cody, I thank you so much for tuning in, jumping. Well, okay.
I'm real. I'm not virtual.
Right.
This is not, I'm not AI. I'm sitting here as a human being, flesh and blood, and I do appreciate the invitation, and I thank you for including me in such a very important discussion, one that you will have numerous times through the course of your podcast, and allowing me to contribute in some way.
I appreciate it. Thank you. We're talking with someone who can give me some context on what leadership is, and I'm really excited about that. And so I want to just dive right in, if that's okay.
Let's do it.
Leadership. And one of the things that I read the book, John C. Lewis, The 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, and he talks about the lid. And he talks about this ability to see further than what you have, see something bigger than what you have in your hand. And I won't go into all of the details. I want you to, but you had an opportunity to see something greater than what you had in your hand. And I think that ability of leading is a skill. And I'd love to hear, what does it take to see something, envision something, and have the mental fortitude to see it through? Tell me, what is that like?
Well, I would have to say that it doesn't just jump on you like a movie where you just wake up and you have this brilliant idea. Most of these brilliant ideas are byproducts of something we've seen. Okay. It may not have been exactly what it is, but it's a precursor to what it is that you might be really approaching. If, for instance, in my life, I grew up in an environment where my father and his brothers were in the Second World War. They came out after the Second World War, had access to the GI Bill. My father was one of 11, 12 children, and he was the only one that went to college, where he met my mother. But we also know that they had access to the Veterans Loan Program, the VA loan program.
Okay.
But they couldn't find anyone to sell them houses. No one would sell the African-American soldiers that were coming back, particularly in the Phoenix area, brown skin, Latino, anyone that was not white could not buy a house. They would not sell them homes. And my father, my uncle, they went to the VA. They said, hey, look, we've got this VA loan program, but no one will sell us houses. And the VA's response was, well, and this is 1950s, 55, we can't make them sell you houses, But if you will build your own houses, we will honor the VA bill. And so from that little precursor, they began the process of creating an entity called Progressive Builders, where they raised money to buy 160 acres of land between Broadway, Southern, 24th Street, and 16th Street in Phoenix, which was owned by a gentleman named Kemper Marley. Some may know, some may not. But it was a farm, may have been a pig farm, may have been a cow farm, I'm not sure. But it was a farm that they bought. From there, Williams and Jones Construction, Williams, my family name, the brothers. Jones was a uncle who married my oldest aunt, and they created a construction company. They master planned the entire neighborhood. They built the streets, they cut the streets, they built the schools. There were businesses. There was a really vibrant African-American community. Dollar was turning over in the community. The houses were lived in by white collar, blue collar. Whether you were at the highest end of the income or the lowest end of the income, you were in this community because this is where you could be.
And buy a house.
And buy a house. And toward the time frame that switched out, when the desegregation laws were signed into being, and many of those people who could left and went to Tempe or Scottsdale or Glendale, wherever, and they had the right to do so.
Right.
But it also left this void in that community. That strong, vibrant community wasn't any longer, simply because the incomes and all of the talent, all the people left. And it basically became a dark age between the late 70s, early 80s, to when I came home, and I'm looking at this environment and I'm like, wow, the rest of Phoenix is blown up. I left in 78 to go to undergraduate, University of Oklahoma, came back in 85, and everything had changed. Crack had become an infestation, and it was where there were those dark places, and we had too many of them in the south of the river, north of the mountain. The perception of our community was crazy. So that when I became the city councilman, my vision, the lid that I had was, I remember it better than this. I remember that this was a vibrant community, and you want to place everything bad happening in metropolitan Phoenix. I'm in Tucson one day, and I see pictures of 24th Street and Broadway as though it was in their city, showing the bad things going on. And so I knew that once I got there, I had to figure out what happened. Why did this stall? Where did the growth go? Why did it take? Why are there no new developments in housing, whereas all over the valley, new houses, new developments, retail, industry, all of these things were just going and thriving. So I'm sitting in the council meetings and I'm hearing people fighting over having a 1 acre development be allowed next to a 2 to 3 units to the acre, which means quarter acre unit. So they're fighting to prevent new development while I'm struggling to bring it. So I said, okay, first of all, I need to figure out why I can't have the stores. And I invite individuals from retail, from the city, from banking, from developers that are in industry, and I bring them to our economic development department, and I create what is the first tour of my area. And they got on a bus, they toured around and came back and told me, well, you need more rooftops. And so in order for me to do this, I now do 15 over my 8-year period to a year. I did a 50+ person bus tour that included retail. All these guys that were having trouble in North, I'm inviting them to come down.
Say, hey,
all these bankers that were doing land deals, I'm doing it. All the property owners I could find, all the city staff, everybody that I could think of who might have an opportunity.
Yes.
I wanted to change the mindset. I wanted them to see this place differently, because we cannot be responsible for all the bad stuff that's going on when in reality we don't even have the population to justify
that. Right.
Okay, so now I'm doing these bus tours, and these folks are getting off the bus and they are seeing South Phoenix, the mountain, the access to the airport, the ease to the downtown area, the ability to drive in any direction without
getting lost,
or having traffic being an issue. And they couldn't believe it, because all they're going off is what they've heard. And so my lid was taking this lid off of their vision and their view. And every one of the bus tours, all 15, somebody got off the property, off the bus, went back and bought some property. Somebody bought at least 54 acres or 271. Next thing you know, we've got 2 golf courses. We've got a resort, the Legacy Resort. The South Mountain Community College gets a bond issue, and they put millions into redoing theirs. I'm able to get my colleagues that let me redo Baseline Road. We create something called a Baseline Master Plan, where we master plan the entire area and reduce our density from what have been 55,000 people down to about 28, because everybody thought all we could have was mobile home parks and single car houses. We had professionals who were well respected in the development area who were just bashing the hell out of the area. My district, District 8, South Phoenix, South Mountain, they were just tearing it apart. And I was at the same time fighting them to build it. And so as people have regrets now, who were those people first off the bus, their biggest regret is that I didn't buy more land when I had a chance. And 2, we were so told by R.L. Brown that you couldn't sell these properties. We sold them too low. We had I remember my first grand opening, 54 acres, 230 something piece of property. The day they opened, they had a line that lasted, all day. They sold 100 houses in the first week. They didn't even get to build the model homes.
It was sold that fast.
Because it was sold. So the first person that moved just right into the model homes. And there were people who bought their houses and then even sold it before they broke ground and made, 20%, made money, because people did not realize the opportunity that was there. And so, yes, I was the kind of person that you were an organized person. You made plans. Mine was ideas. Mine was, okay, I'm throwing this on the wall. I'm throwing 50, 60, 70 different things against the wall to see what sticks.
Right.
And of those 50, if 10 stick, now I'm turning to my staff as a city councilman and saying, staff, here's a project here. I need you to try to begin the process. We're trying to accomplish this. Let's get this done. Let's make this happen over here. And so my staff is now very much engaged in ways they hadn't been, particularly in my area. We then started doing weed and seed, where we weeded out crack houses and drug dens and illegal areas, and then seeded them with new housing, did infill housing programs where we gave discounts to home builders to build in certain areas that they wouldn't otherwise. And now all of a sudden they're coming to me saying, hey, look, if we do these things, we're going to do this basing. No, you're not doing this basing.
Right.
I saw this up in Mesa. I saw this in Scottsdale. You built a running track instead of a bunch of rocks to be your water retention basin. We're going to build a playground, and you're going to put a trail around that has these exercise posts and all of that stuff.
Right.
So
that's what I want. Right.
And then you're going to build a bridge across the canal to go to the school that's right behind you. I mean, you're going to do these things. And if you want my support, well, if we do them, Councilman, then you have to do that and make everybody do that. I said, don't worry about that. Well, I didn't have to worry about it. Why? Because when they did it, everybody who came,
the process.
They wanted it. They wanted to up that development. They wanted to say, not only do we do what this person did, we're doing what we're going to do more. We're going to set the standard. And so now that's on its own. It's running. Now all of a sudden I have the ability to do the Legacy Center, the retail development at 24th and 24th and Baseline. Didn't happen
Wow.
before I got off the council or finished, but it
But
was
still, it
in
was
the
in the
wakes. It
process,
was
right?
in the process before it happened. But it would not have happened if we hadn't started 8 years prior
Was the groundwork,
with the
right?
groundwork to set it up. So you speak about it from a mental perspective and what can be. You don't see it necessarily in exact shades and structure and colors. You see it in what our expectations. I expect us to have the same things that every community has. I don't expect it to look the same way it does in your community or
Right.
your community, but I do expect that a Target is going to be there and that a brand new fries and that I'm going to have an Applebee's or a IHOP restaurant. I'm going to have Starbucks and
I'm gonna have that, right?
I'm going to have this Sprouts.
Right.
I'm going to have Sprouts. I'm going to have these things that you have, but everybody has said we'll never have because of who we are and we're in this
And where we're at, right.
and they're using all of the signals, where your crime rates are high and this is that.
Right.
And there are all kinds of redlining type discriminatory ways of characterizing communities. Well, now mine is probably the most diverse community in the state of Arizona. Right. I mean, when you think about the people who started to come, because I remember so many people telling me that when they got off the airplane, people said, don't go to South Phoenix.
Yes.
Just stay away. Just go away. And they would never say why.
Right.
But once they found the place, I remember a gentleman, brother I know very well. He lived in Chandler and he was thinking about buying one of those first houses. And he even slept overnight to see what the traffic would be like going to work the next day. And he did his homework and his research. And as soon as he bought it, eventually he sold it at some point. He still lives in the area, but he bought a different house, made money on the house that he sold, and tells everybody, hey, look, this is the place to be. And there are people from every race, every socioeconomic level in this community. There's churches, there's stores, there's everything you can imagine. But it took us time to get there. And yes, it did take some vision. I didn't know what I was going to ultimately get, but I knew that every day that I was pushing these envelopes, I had now teams, people following me. And I didn't have to be a micromanager over every idea I threw out because I had quality people around me. And they were the ones coming back. Well, here's how we're going to do this. We're going to do this is how we're going to set up the infill housing program. Here's how we're going to do the baseline master plan. And this is how we're going to set this up. This is what we're going to do with the weed and seed. We got to get rid of the cruising on Central. We got to get rid of these things. We got to do so we did numerous things. I mean, just over 8 years, it was a lot of stuff that changed the foundation. So this is where we were on this shaky foundation to begin with. Now we're on this firm foundation,
and then
that is gone from there. It was everything else.
Wow. And so some of the things that I find, one.
Did that answer your question?
Did it?
Okay. Just want to be sure.
Yes. And so some of the things that I take away from that is when we think about our mental health and leadership and understanding our role, right, as it comes to becoming a leader and even leading in our own lives, it takes us understanding that we may not see the vision right away, but you have an expectation, right? You have an expectation. We have an expectation of what we want. Mm-hmm. And that sounds like the first place to start. What do you want? Like, what do you want this to look like? And you made it clear. I saw what it was like. So it was not so much that you had to look so much further. You could just look backward and say, this is what it was like. It was a beautiful community, thriving, and this is what the talent looked like. And if I can recreate something that was that amazing now, that yes, look forward, to look backwards, just to look forward again.
Well, the point you make is that I did ask a lot of questions about what do you want? Because being a candidate to run for office, I was, I had a good job. I was, I had college degree at that time, undergrad, and I was working at the city of Phoenix. My wife was, fledgling, growing in the police department. We had 2 kids, and we had that basic everyday
Nuclear
kind of
family, right.
living existence. And the my predecessor was Calvin Good. He had been there for 20 years at the time, and I was working under him. And many people thought that I would run against him, and that was never my interest.
Right.
Because I was finally making some money. I need to pay off bills. I
Right.
wasn't trying to upset his
Right.
apple cart. But when they changed the charter from 2 years to 4-year terms, he had had enough. He was finishing at 22, and he came to me and he said, "Are you still interested in being a city councilman?" And I said, "Let me go talk to the wife. Let me talk to the friends and family." I ended up having to resign from my position because I was a city employee. And so I had about 6-8 months before I saw a new check. And that check went from the, highs down to 18,000 a year. And so, relying on the wife and just kind of trying to make it. But running and talking to people and knocking on doors and getting signatures back then was still a physical job. You still knocked on doors. You still saw people in grocery store parking lots. You still went to churches. You still, it's about town halls. You had debates. It was all about being in front of people as much as it was phone calls and talking to people and mail pieces that you mail. Today, it's about robocalls. It's about AI generated communication.
Completely different world.
It's about emails.
Right.
It's about, everybody
Social
still does
media.
signs, social media. You've got podcasts like this. You got so many other things that are having individuals make decisions without me actually
do the effort.
And that was part of how I was raised up in the corporate side of things I was doing. We were still just in the fledgling areas of computers. And so it made more sense for me to take the paper
and get
to
it to you,
the office and meet the person that I'm working with and develop a relationship, which then became the good name and the good word that help you progress up the ladder, versus people now who can work with each other for decades and never met them.
And so that you touch on another thing when we talk about mental health is that engagement piece. And we think about leadership, it's never done in isolation. We can't lead by ourselves. Absolutely. And so when we dealing with others, personality challenges, belief system challenges, how do you navigate engaging with people who may not see the world or have the same lens as you? How do you?
That's a great question. To me, that's the crux of everything that we should be doing, and what we did a whole lot more of before it became a podcast or a wake up in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning and send out a tweet or whatever the case is that like some people do. What you understand coming up, like I said, I watched my father and I watched the diversity that surrounded him.
Hey, sorry to interject. Had to cut it short. Our episodes are fit between 20 and 30 minutes, and that's because our listeners asked if that's what they wanted most. If you'd like our episodes to go longer, please leave a comment below so that way we can get that information and put it into our next episode or next season. I hope you enjoyed part 2 right here. And if you'd like to share, subscribe, I won't stop you. And if you want it to be longer, I'm sure I can find a few things to run my mouth about. And I'm sure there's a few friends of mine that would love to do the same. Be kind to your mind. Enjoy the rest of your episode. I'll talk with you soon.